Hello there. What can one see in a bicycle? For many, it is just a machine, used to get from A to B. Many might also consider it stressful, as it demands much of our own energy, and we are exposed to the weather and traffic while riding it. It also demands maintenance, and if not maintained, it will not even work properly anymore. Then also demanding even more of our energy. It might also get stolen. So bikes can be seen as something rather negative. And this, in my opinion, explains why many people ride their bicycle far less than they could. I don't really see anything of this in bicycles. I see opportunity and freedom. Getting around with ease, with a speed far higher than I could walk with. Independent of public transport or fossil fuels. Just using my own energy. Having exercise and staying healthy because of it. Ultimately, staying young and fresh in a way. I also see a potential of learning a lot through bicycles. Maintenance and fixing things are only a pain at first sight. Once you get ahead of them, they provide you with a certain satisfaction. The satisfaction of being in control over this wonderful machine. Then there is something else. I particularly love old steel bikes from mid-80s to early 90s. I can't exactly tell you why. Seemingly, I see more in these bikes than freedom and exercise, as mentioned before. I can't really explain that. One bike, though, feels like I can try with. In this video, you can see my Panasonic MC-7500. It's a 1989 model in size 61 or 24 inches. I bought it earlier this year for too much, given its condition. The frame had many paint damages and rust spots near the bottom bracket. Many original parts were missing or broken. But still, I saw something in the bike. On the one side, a top-of-the-line MTB from my favorite era, with a high-class Tange Prestige frame, in my size, and with my favorite component group, Shimano Dior XT2 or M732, with the awesome clicky thumbies that shift up to 8-speed indexed and can be used as friction shifters at the same time. With a lot of effort, I collected all the original parts that were missing or broken to restore it to its original state as good as possible. And then on the other hand, there was something else I saw in the bike, and apologies when I have to go into some detail here. The bike was made in Japan in 1989. If you know something about Japanese history, this was at the peak of the so-called Japanese bubble economy, where wealth in Japan was prospering. Japan was even at the verge of overtaking the US as the strongest economy worldwide. It must have been such exciting times. One of my former professors at university had been there in 1989 as an exchange student. He told us that he couldn't afford anything back then, but all Japanese around him had so much cash to burn, and surely they did. Some documentaries tell the same story. I will put some in the video description for you if you are interested. All in all, this time must have had such an optimism, such a collective mood of opportunity. And this is important. The time I grew up in, being a kid of the 90s in Germany, is of course very different from the Japan I described, but there are some similarities. When I graduated from high school, the word of missing professionals in the job market was everywhere. When I graduated from university, post-COVID, with a sought-after degree, everyone around me and myself had trouble finding an entry position in a company, as these positions had become scarce due to the bad overall financial situation, or due to a bad mood or climate in companies towards hiring fresh graduates without work experience. And this despite all the talk about missing professionals all the time. So no real optimism or a collective mood of opportunity right here, right now. Back to Japan. The problems for fresh graduates have been around for 35 years there now, since my bike was built and the bubble economy burst in 1990. The generation entering the job market in the 90s in Japan is even called the lost generation. Many societal problems like a new precariat with uncertain employment and financial situation, the phenomenon of hikikomori, and stagnating birth rates can be linked to that problem and last until today. So this is definitely also not a very optimistic situation of opportunities. We can even take this situation to a global scale. We live in a time where global conflict seems to be around the corner again, with Russia's war against Ukraine going on for 3 years already and no peaceful solution in sight. The internet and information technology in general, despite having their advantages of course, tend to make us unhappy, lonely, distracted, and even frustrated. Politically, they seem to split and misinform us, rather than to educate and inform us. In some countries, these technologies are utilized for mass surveillance and destroy freedom. Of course, these are all tendencies, and especially with technologies, there also come advantages, but I think this is the outweighing tendency. Once more going back to Japan. Despite all problems this country is facing, I've always been interested in it and its culture. Some years back, I fulfilled myself a dream and did my exchange semester in Tokyo. There are various aspects about life in Japan I enjoy and that fascinate me. My time in Tokyo was great because of the many impressions and experiences with life in Japan, and most of all because of the new friends I've made there, who I, by the way, also want to meet again soon. Slowly you might be wondering, how does this all connect to a bicycle? So, first of all, I miss living in Japan a lot. The bike, being from there, reminds me of it all the time when I see or ride it. Then, the time period the bike is from gives me that strong impression of optimism and energy I talked about earlier. The optimism and energy from the booming economy in Japan in the late 80s. In my head, the bike is somehow connected to what I know about that period of time. And finally, the colors of the bike. This deep black with some red accents always gives me the impression of Shibuya crossing at night, maybe with the ground still wet from a past rain, and on the way with friends to a karaoke spot or a bar to have a great night out. So, for our beginning or opening question, what can one see in a bicycle? One can see a lot in a bicycle. It can give you some positive image, feeling, or experience you might have lived through or know about. Something that helps when things around you don't look that good. To me, I can see that in this bike and in bicycles in general. To you, this maybe comes from elsewhere. If you're not a bike nerd as me, it probably comes from elsewhere. And if you're not a bike nerd as me, I hope that you can at least see freedom, exercise, and fun in a bicycle, and not only hassle and maintenance. So, thanks if you made it this far. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you soon. Bye bye. Some post-scriptum for you. Some might say the optimism I described from the bubble era in Japan was also quite blind, ultimately leading to the failure of economy. And I get this point, but my point is we could still use some of that optimism today, in my opinion.